Okay, hello everyone. We're joined by Jesse Marsch, head coach of the men's national team. Start with questions in the room. Matthew?
Jesse Marsch just said that he met you a little while ago here. He said that he's not qualified to talk about politics. Even Alphonso Davies said yesterday when I asked him just about the overall tenor of what's going on in the world right now and representing Canada, he said, he doesn't want to get into that. You weighed into that the last time that you were here. Is it hard to strike that balance? This is a competition with four nations, especially three of them that are all going to be vying as hosts in the World Cup. But there's a lot going on in the world right now. How do you strike that balance? Is it impossible to separate the two?
Look, I'm not going to get political right now. I think I made my statements clear and known. I will say that I do think, again, from watching the four nations in hockey, that you can see that the climate for sports in North America has been elevated for national teams. I'm hopeful, really hopeful, that this tournament can be the best reflection of society, of our societies, right? And that we don't have to waste time booing national anthems and getting caught up in politics, and we can just focus on the players and the teams and supporting the love of the game, the love of the sport, and then whatever your nationality is, that you can support your team all the way. And that's been our focus, right? Is we haven't even addressed internally in the team the political situation. We've just focused on the fact that we want to be at our best, specifically on Thursday, because we really respect our opponent in Mexico, and we want to give ourselves the best chance to move on and compete for a trophy on Sunday.
Jesse, we heard from Mauricio when he was asked about the importance of this tournament. The first thing he said was their main objective was the World Cup. You've obviously said something similar in the past as well. There's a lot of people back in Canada that are thinking about Sunday and what could possibly come of that matchup potentially with the United States. So can you take us inside what you're doing right now to make sure that your team isn't looking as even past Thursday night towards what Mexico will be?
No, I don't really think that there are too many reminders that are necessary for our team. I think we have confidence in our group, and I think we've grown a lot in the last 10 months together. But we know that playing Mexico will be very difficult, that they will make the game very difficult on us, just like they did back in September, that they will be physical, that they will foul, that they will make it a hard game. And in a lot of ways, I think our guys are excited for the challenge at hand and the difficulty of playing another away stadium against a very good team where there's a lot on the line. And I think that our team is ready to challenge themselves and show that we're ready for this kind of moment. So I'm in agreement with Mauricio when you'd say still the grand focus has to be on next summer. But I think this is an important step or cog in the wheel or moment in time for us to capture the right way and learn more about ourselves and challenge ourselves to be at our best.
Hi, Jesse. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Daniel Jebison and Promise David, I'm wondering if you could perhaps give us some detail of what they bring to Canada, what it is that you see in their game separately, and their importance as we move forward, especially towards next year's World Cup, and how you plan to utilize them in this tournament.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good example for me about the grand focus of what we're trying to do, because it would have been easy to say, well, this is a tournament, we want to win a trophy, and we need to bring in the best group that understands what we're trying to achieve. But given the fact that we think that those are high potential players that could really fit into what we're doing, the right now is the most important moment for them to be connected with us. So they're both strikers. They're both dynamic. They're both big. They play a little differently. I would say that Jebison is more of somebody who is a guy who runs in behind, who is fast and creative with his movement and his ability around the goal. And then Promise David is more of like a target striker, right? Who around the box has really good movement, seems to find a way to get on the end of a lot of balls and find ways to score goals. And obviously he's in a really good moment in his career right now and playing really well for Union Saint-Gilloise. So, yeah, I mean, I think that both are very eligible to play minutes for us and are ready to contribute to what we do. And it'll just depend a little bit on what kind of game it is, what we need at any given moment. But I think we're excited to have them here, and we'll be ready to put them to use.
Jesse, not asking you to go back to politics, but I think your comments really resonated with a lot of Canadians, especially considering that you are American. I guess my question is why? Why in the 10 months that you've been Canada coach as an American have you kind of taken to Canada so quickly?
I mean, look, I had a lot of Canadian friends in college. I played in soccer tournaments. I played in hockey tournaments up in Canada when I was young. I always appreciated the mentality of the people. And now that I've been more closely connected with everything that's been going on there, I've felt a sense of pride for what Canada is. And I want to make sure as the national team coach that I represent that the right way. And I felt like it was a moment that as an American that I could make poignant comments based on my experiences growing up, as well as what I'm experiencing of the communities that I've been visiting and learning about in my time as the Canadian national team coach. Going back on it, I'm really satisfied, and if I had to do it again, I would say the same things. But now's not the time to do that, right? Really, now's the time for the most important thing we can do now to be Canadian, to be nationalistic, to be proud of what's being created up there, is to make sure that we perform in this tournament, and that's totally our focus.
Hi, Jesse. Just to kind of maybe close the loop on that.
Yes,
you said
good.
earlier.
That's a good way to put it.
You said earlier that you hadn't talked to your team about the political situation or anything like that. And obviously you're playing Mexico on Thursday, not the United States. But do you plan at any point to bring that up with your team and maybe use that as motivation?
Well, look, I think our team, we don't live in isolation. They're very aware. They knew the comments I made, even though a lot of them are in Europe, and they're aware of what's going on. But they want to stick to playing football. They don't want to be political figures. I don't blame them, right? It's up to their stupid American coach to do stuff like that. But I think there's an appreciation for what we're building and what I've learned from them and what it means to be in this position. And to make sure that I support them and challenge them and give them a platform to be at their best, and that leads to building something incredibly special for 2026. And so I feel like we're on a really good path. Personally, as their coach, I'm really excited to see how they respond to these matches, right? We have so much respect for Mexico to start with. Spending time with Javier Aguirre 3 weeks ago, and when we all had the press conference, like, he's had such a wonderful career. He's coached so many different places. He's done the national team several times. He's done a lot. There's a lot to learn from him, and I have a lot of respect for the way that he's reorganized the national team and made them, for me, more competitive and more similar to the great teams that I think they've had in the past. So this is a big moment for him and his team. I know that the pressure will be on in Mexico, but this is a big moment for us and our team, and we're excited about the challenge.
Jesse, you spoke, I think it was in November, about a desire to get more eyeballs on this team. I think it was in the context of the September window. Obviously, we've seen news that there's expanded coverage in Canada this week of this tournament. I just wondered, do you see that as an added opportunity to maybe deliver to some of those kind of like bigger eyeballs, and maybe with a bit of a focus in attack? The last game against Mexico in parts was maybe one for the purists. A little bit of added kind of attacking fluency, would that be something that would please you?
Well, look, first we get to bring Matt and Christian back together, so it's good to see them on the same team once again. We're trying to unify the country in all ways, and so we're doing that with One Soccer and TSN. Copa America was a big moment for the program, right? And I think the performances were really strong, and I think everybody recognized that we were taking the team in a new direction, in a dynamic direction, in a direction that would access the qualities of our players, and then they got to see really the talent that we have in the player pool. And by the way, I think that those players have grown a lot since 10 months ago or 9 months ago. I think that they're playing at big clubs in Europe. Most of them are playing regularly I had a bigger headache trying to choose the squad than I've ever had in my time here, which is the exact problem that we need to have as the national team. And the only way to continue to build momentum inside and externally for what this team is to try to win every moment that we're on the pitch together and do it in the way that we think is entertaining and aggressive and represents the qualities of these players. So, I can tell you this. I'm trying to build an overall DNA for the sport in the country that is about being aggressive, that is about fearlessness, that is about going after opponents. And that will be the case. I don't care who we play. We will never be on the back foot. We will always search and seek to be on the front foot and set the tone for what we think the game should be.
Jesse over here, Felipe Gardenas with The Athletic. You mentioned Javier. He just gave a pretty animated press conference as well, where he spoke about pride and intensity being non-negotiable for his side. The context of that is that the question was about that's been something that's been lacking from the national team over the last few years. Does that surprise you, considering what you mentioned about the great teams of Mexico? And what do you expect now in this new era under Aguirre?
Well, look, I think I have a little bit of a unique perspective on Mexican football because of my time with Chivas USA, because I played with guys like Jorge Campos and Claudio Suarez and Ramon Ramirez, Paco Palencia. So that overall experience showed me not just the quality of player that is in Mexico, but the quality of people. Like, really, those are four of the best people I played with in my career. And so there is pride. There's a huge amount of pride in the game in Mexico and what it means to the culture. And so I think that Javier has brought that back to the team. And I do see the sense of responsibility that the players and that the team carry now. And I understand that he wants to make sure he has a team that fights, right? That is ready for every moment, which has made them, I think, a lot tougher to play against, which really, again, is what an exciting proposition for us. Like, we've done well. We've progressed. We've developed as a team. Our progress has been rather linear. And I believe strongly that this game is going to test us in a massive way. And I want to see that our team's ready, that our team can still set the tone and has respect for Mexico, but really now goes after the game. And will it play out that way? Like, I think it has potential to be a real heavyweight fight. And in that sense, I think I'm really excited about what the possibilities of the game will be, and I'm excited to see our team play.
Jesse, a little bit more what you were saying. You mentioned you wanted your guys to understand the intensity that this game will require and have that tactical clarity. Where would you say the team is at now for this matchup against Mexico, given the little time to prepare?
Well, that's the biggest X factor, right? Is for all of us, we haven't seen our teams in 4 months. And immediately my emphasis was to make all the reminders about what it is when you come with the national team and what has given us success. It's such a strain, between June 1st and December 1st, I think we had 13 matches. And then between December 1st and June 1st, we'll have 2. And we'll have maybe 3 days to train on the pitch. So you could make all the excuses you want about not being ready to perform and the challenges of what the game will be in the environment and all this crap, but that doesn't matter, right? In the end, it's making sure that if in a big moment that we are organized, that we are clear, that we have good concentration, that we understand our roles, and that we play with confidence and fearlessness, and we go after games. That's what sports is. That's what teams are, and that's what we have to be.
Hey, Coach. Katie Baker from The Ringer. You mentioned hockey twice today. You mentioned Four Nations. You mentioned playing yourself. I'd love to just hear a little bit about what your relationship is with the sport, and if you've ever, if you think there's anything from hockey that you can derive into soccer and tactically or otherwise.
Look, I traded texts with John Cooper. We haven't had the chance to speak yet. But look, I watched those games and I described the first match as maybe caught the Canadians a little bit by surprise, and the Americans having their national anthem booed and everything else might have lit a fire under them. But then the second game, it was like our Canadian national team kind of knew what the game was going to require, and that's going to be important for us, right? So if I haven't overemphasize this whole political scene, but what I have said is that, you know, we know that there's a charged atmosphere around what these games, international games, mean now. Again, these aren't things I need to describe to them. What does hockey, the sport? I will say this. I've tried to use the Canadian hockey mentality with our players to say, look at the identity of the Canadian hockey players and the grittiness, the when things are tough, that they play their best, that they're hard, that they're strong, that they're up for challenges, that they'll never back down from a fight. And to kind of say, like, you know, we need to build this more and more into who we are, into our identity, but do it in our way, in our football way. And so I think they have. I think I think we've grown a lot in the time I've known them. And I'm excited for Thursday.
Hello, Jesse, Mafra Alonso from 2DN.
Okay.
If in another world, Javier Aguirre asked you about which one of Jimenez you prefer, Santi Jimenez or Raúl Jimenez, which one do you like more?
I'll take both.
And
they're both fantastic, and they're both, I think, in a really good way. I know it's been, whenever you transfer to a new team for Santi, it's not always easy to integrate immediately, you know. So he was playing so great with Feyenoord, and I think he's a great player. There was discussion last time we were playing him, like, you know, should he be starting? And I've known some people at Feyenoord. I've watched their team over the last couple of years. In Leeds, we bought a player from Feyenoord, so I knew what was going on there. And then Dennis de Kloose was with me at Chivas USA. So I've seen Santi for years, and then I played against Raúl. He was with Wolves at the time, but I played against him when I was at Leeds, and both players I always have had a lot of respect for, and I think now that they have two great strikers in good form, it makes their team that much more dangerous. So I don't know if he has to choose. I think maybe he plays both, but we'll see. We'll see when the lineup comes out.
When you look at some of the players, Jesse, that you've played, I think about Ali, I think about Mathieu Chouanier as an example. They might not have been playing regularly for their clubs, but then they came to the national team and they integrated and really had success right away. What does that say about the atmosphere that you're building, but maybe the way that they're reacting and building chemistry with their other players?
Look, there's no question that these guys love playing for the national team. Right. There's no question that they feel a real bond to each other. And that's been developed not just since I've been there, but the time before. They talk about the brotherhood. They talk about what it means to play for the national team. I've told them I've learned more from them on what that means than I could give to them. And that's been important. So I think we've managed and we've tried to create the kind of environment where we push the players to be their best, and we try to access the qualities that they have as people and make them feel challenged in our environment, but supported. And I think that that's meant that for most of them, we've seen the best version of them, right, when they've come in with the national team. And a lot of them then just physically and personally have the kind of qualities that fit the way I think about football. And so they enjoy it. They're rewarded by it because they see the strength and they see how it feeds the talents that they have. So it's a good fit for me. I think I'm a good fit for them, but you know, we still have so much to do before we get to next summer, and to really achieve the potential that I think we have.
Jesse, you told us yesterday that Jonathan David and Kyle Larin would start up front together. No major surprise, but Kyle told us in the media this morning that it was a big confidence boost to hear that from you right away in the week. They've started 30 games together and they've scored 23 goals when they've been together as a partnership, and Canada's never lost when Kyle Larin scored a goal national team. What does that partnership do when you see them on the field, not just with the ball and with the goals, but the amount of work that they've done off the ball, and particularly in Copa America against teams that had a lot of possession like Argentina?
Look, I think, you know, I've referenced a lot about how intelligent Jonathan is, but maybe in the meantime, I haven't always emphasized how intelligent Kyle is as well. And both of them understand exactly the role that we're asking them to play in all moments, and they're committed to doing it at the highest level. Again, I think they feel challenged by what we're asking him to do, because even with Jonathan, I'm asking him to do things a little bit differently than how he does it at Lille, right? And so, but I think they understand why we try to do things the way we do them, how it benefits all of them in the way that they fit and play with each other. And we've created a balance, a structure, and a belief right, in the team by how we play and how we talk and how we work and how we challenge each other and how we do everything for each other. And man, it's a long time since I've been a player, but when you're a player, you love to play in environments where you feel challenged but loved, right? And I think that they feel that way.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey.
Paul Tenorio from The Athletic. I wonder, I feel like going into this game, I don't know what the Vegas odds are, but that Canada's earned the right to be considered a favorite, at least that they have the expectation to win. And ahead of a home World Cup where you'll be playing games at home and you'll have that expectation to win, how much is that a part of this process for the group right now to learn how to handle being the favorite, being expected to win?
Look, culturally, we're not quite there yet in terms of the overall success of the Canadian national team. And are we favorites against a good Mexican team, a good U.S. team? Like, it's conjecture, right? But certainly the belief that our players have has grown, So I don't, maybe in the beginning when we played against Netherlands, France, and Argentina, I had to kind of say to them, like, come on, you're good enough. And especially if you meet the standards of the way we want to play the game, you can all be rewarded within this. That's no longer the psychological profile of what this project is no longer about building self-belief. It's about challenging the level at which we can execute in the biggest games and in emotional games. Right? And that is what will ultimately prepare us for what next summer needs to be. So this is an important time for us just to understand how we are ready to respond and play and be at our best in moments like this.
Hey, Jesse, Nico Cantor from CBS Sports. I've actually got two follow-ups to a couple of the answers you just gave. I want to pick your brain and ask you, what do you think it is that Jonathan David does differently at Lille from what you're asking from him here? And when you did talk to those guys and tell them, hey, we are good enough, who do you think of your players, the one that best received that message and has grown more from that standpoint?
So the first part is I think Jonathan plays more like a lone striker and is asked to be part of build-up situations, but be always available in the box and looking to make final plays, which he's obviously very good at. And we ask him to be more part of the build-up and more a bigger part of the playmaking of how we get from playing over or through the opponent to then how we get into the final third and the creativity and the ease at which he can see plays. We look to use that more, and then ultimately you have used him more with another striker that can also be doing some of the work of moving around in the box. Now, he's still, I think, since I've been here, I think he's our leading scorer. And, if you expected goals and all the rest, he's still very effective in all these ways. But that's been beneficial for the team. And I've even checked in with him at different times going, what do you think? You're good with how we're asking you to play? And he's like, yeah, I love it. He'll do anything. But, I think he still likes that. He knows that he still has a lot of football in him and that he can do so much more than just score goals, even though he's great at scoring goals. Who's benefited the most? I don't know. Look, I think Alphonso Davies has matured massively since I've gotten to know him. He's become a real captain, I think, and he's grown a lot as a man. And that was one of the things that I challenged him to do. And I still am trying to develop him in the way he plays football, as good as he is. I could go down the list. There's guys like Ali Ahmed and Matthew Chouanier and Jacob Schaffelberg, but then there's guys in the categories of Jonathan and Alfonso. I think Moise Bombito, Derek Cornelius. I think Alistair Johnston continues to show how great he can be. Stefan Eustachio with all the qualities he has. I think a lot of our guys are playing the best they've ever played in their career, right? So, and a lot of that is, I think, because what I've tried to explain and kind of guide them through is in my experiences of coaching at the highest levels and seeing versions of players that are the best in the world, and then looking at the pieces and qualities of what our players have and trying to guide them on a pathway to help them understand how to maximize their own potentials based on the things that I've seen from great players. That part, I think, has been a useful skill or that experience that I could give to the team, right? And ultimately, that's what I care the most about, is maximizing potential of these men. right? And making sure that they can be the best in their personal lives, in their professional lives, that they can achieve the most that they possibly can in their career, and that the dreams, hopes and dreams they have for the home World Cup, that they can live those out, that they can exercise those at the highest level.
Last question.
Andres Magallanes del Tri Online. You mentioned that your first 6 months, I guess you had 13 games compared to the last 3 months you had 2 games. Aguirre just took over the reins after Copa America. He's had a smaller sample size with this squad that he's bringing up. His last time around, he had basically fourth string team. How difficult does that make it for you to prepare to face him on Thursday?
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, I followed his career and the type of football that he's played at different places. Even as much as when he was at Mallorca with Kyle Larin and watching some of that and talking to Kyle about things that he's emphasized. Look, I also follow Mexican football, both the league and the international players. I mean, you know, when I was in Europe, moving around different places, I would run into different Mexican players and always go out of my way to say hello, because there's sort of a North American bond that you have for people that are working in Europe and supporting each other, and the joy we see in whether it was Canadian, American, Panamanian, Mexican players. Like, as a North American, I wanted to see all of them be successful and support them all to do well. So, you know, I know the team, I know the players, we know the team, we know the players. The coach has done an amazing job. I think they'll be prepared, and they know who we are, and they're going to combat everything we try to do. They're going to be very difficult to play against. It sets up for a heavyweight fight once again, and we're really excited about it.
Thank you, everyone.